William Cohen and Joint Chiefs Chairman General Henry Shelton are scheduled to testify before the Senate Appropriations Committee. Join us at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. And Sunday night on C-SPAN, a speech by Vice President Al Gore to Democrats in Manchester, New Hampshire. Road to the White House 2000, Sunday night at 7 and 10 Eastern and Pacific. Next, President Clinton and First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton. Yesterday at the White House, they announced that NASA astronaut Eileen Collins will become the first female Space Shuttle commander. They're joined by NASA Administrator Daniel Golden at this 25-minute event.
Thank you all. Please be seated and welcome to the White House and the Roosevelt Room. The President and I are honored to be joined today by so many people who have made this historic announcement possible. I especially want to recognize NASA Administrator Dan Golden, Sally Ride, Jennifer Harris, who at age 28 was the Flight Operations Director of Mars Pathfinder, and our guest of honor, Colonel Eileen Collins, who is here with her husband, Pat Youngs. I'm also pleased to see members of Congress, Representative Houghton, who's here, Sheila Jackson-Lee, Eddie Bernice Johnson, and Zoe Lofgren. This is a wonderful event. I cannot think of any occasion in the White House that gives me more personal pleasure than this announcement. In December 1998, when the shuttle Columbia takes off, Colonel Eileen Collins will take one big step forward for women and one giant leap for humanity. Colonel Collins will become the first woman ever to command a space shuttle. Her mission will launch the most advanced X-ray telescope ever flown, so we can examine some of the most distant and powerful objects in our universe. Just by coincidence, this is also the beginning of Women's History Month, and this is certainly a historic event. Tonight here at the White House, we will be previewing an HBO series which looks back at our journey to the moon and shows how our exploration of space has always inspired us as individuals and united us as a nation. Some of you know that when I was 14 or so, I dreamed of becoming an astronaut. I even wrote to NASA, now that was before Administrator Golden was in charge, to find out what I needed to do to prepare myself to see the stars up close. Unfortunately, I got one of those really thin envelopes back, which is never a good sign. NASA thanked me for my interest, but said that women weren't being considered for the job. Well, times have certainly changed, and we have seen the dreams of many girls come to reality as we have watched Sally Ride and now Eileen Collins circle not only our planet, but go out into our universe. I first met Eileen 3 years ago at another Women's History Month event. She had just become the first woman pilot of a space shuttle, and she gave me a red shirt she'd worn on that mission. What I saw in that shirt was not only her remarkable accomplishment, but also the courageous road she'd traveled to reach her every goal. As a small child, Colonel Collins would go to the airport with her father and her siblings, sit on the hood of her car, and watch the planes take off. She would look up at the sky and imagine traveling into space, and now she's doing just that, for many of the same reasons men and women have always made history. She made history because of her skill and determination to be not the best woman for the job, but simply the best person. She's made it because of parents who always told her she could do anything she put her mind to. She made it because she ignored those who said it wasn't cool or feminine to study math or science, and she demanded and received a first-class education in both. She made it because of the doors of opportunity that NASA has increasingly opened to women and minorities. And she made history because of the countless other women upon whose shoulders all of us stand. I think of Amelia Earhart disguising herself to reach her dream. I think of Mae Jemison, the first African-American woman to fly in space. I think of Shannon Lucid, who just last year broke the record for the longest time spent in space by an American. And I think back to 1978, when Shannon Lucid, Sally Ride, Rhea Seddon, Catherine Sullivan, Judy Resnick, and Anna Fisher became the first women to join the astronaut corps. That was the same year Eileen Collins graduated from college and entered Air Force pilot training. Her first week there, the 6 women astronauts came to do a parachute training. She looked at them and thought, wow, this is what I'm going to do. Now, this afternoon, when astronaut Collins and I go to Dunbar Senior High School to talk about the importance of studying math and science, I hope there will be students, both boys and girls in that audience, who will look up at her and say the same thing. That's what I'm going to do. And when her mission launches next December, the next generation of girls and boys will be able to look to the heavens and think, there's nothing I can't do. Children have always gazed at the sky with wonder, and so has our nation. Especially in the aftermath of Sputnik, we have looked to space as the next frontier in our never-ending journey of discovery. And our advancements there have brought us closer together as a country and more as a world. In the last year alone, we were riveted by the Mars Pathfinder landing. We received stunning photographs and information from other planets courtesy of the Hubble Space Telescope. And as Professor Stephen Hawking will point out in his Millennium Lecture tomorrow evening here at the White House, we can look forward to new scientific discoveries and greater human understanding in the next century and the next millennium. None of these achievements, none of this new human understanding and wisdom would have been possible without our continuing investments in science, space, and technology. And none of it would have been possible without the leadership of our next speaker. NASA Administrator Dan Golden is truly bringing our space program into the next century by making it, quote, faster, better, and cheaper. And by ensuring that NASA's workforce looks like America and that its work reaches all of America. It is my great honor to introduce Administrator Dan Golden.
You were very gracious. We're here to honor Eileen Collins, the first woman ever selected to be a commander of a NASA shuttle mission. But let me begin by saying what a privilege it is to be introduced by someone who also happens to be a role model for so many women, someone so dedicated to service, and someone who has done so much for the children around the world. It is also an honor, of course, to be standing up here with her husband. I'd like to thank President Clinton for all he's done, especially for all he's done for our future and our children through his commitment to the nation's space program. It has been said that men are from Mars and women are from Venus. I can assure all of you at NASA, we have stayed out of that debate. But we are here today because we know it takes women to explore Mars and Venus. We are here because it takes women to open the space frontier and enrich the lives of all Americans. And we are here today because it takes brave and talented women like Eileen Collins to remind us of simple but profound truths. To discover new worlds, we must break down old barriers. Our only discriminating quality should be excellence. When it comes to pioneering the future, we need the best and the brightest only. At NASA, we have been committed to just that. Today, we can say that our astronaut corps does not only have the first woman commander, which is so exciting and important to our future, but we could also say that our astronaut corps is more diverse than ever in the history of our space program. And thanks to these women and men who risked their lives, the past year has been marked by shuttle missions that brought back unbelievable science and made possible the continuing preparations for the International Space Station that wouldn't occur without the leadership of our president. Today we can say that there are more women scientists and engineers at NASA than ever before in the history of the agency. Their work has helped make possible the breathtaking images from the Hubble telescope and the tremendous success of the Mars Pathfinder. But, Mr. President and Mrs. Clinton, perhaps the most exciting thing we could say today and during this National Women's History Month is this: at NASA, we're just getting started. Because while Eileen Collins is commanding the shuttle in orbit, she will also be commanding an audience of young women here on Earth. Young girls are going to look up at America's newest hero and decide that they want to be scientists, they want to be engineers, they want to be not only astronauts, but commanders. And because of Eileen Collins and those who came before her, the Sally Rides, the Shannon Lucids, they'll know that in America, being that commander or even commander-in-chief is possible and achievable. What a wonderful day for America. It's now my distinct honor and high privilege to introduce you to one of NASA's best, the commander who will take a telescope that I worked on and designed almost 10 years ago. Do it right, Eileen. I give America, Mrs. President, Commander Eileen Collins.
Mr. President, Mrs. Clinton, and Administrator Golden, I just can't tell you how much of an honor it is for me to be here today. And I'm just so excited about this opportunity that I have to command a space shuttle flight. And I want to tell you that since I was a child, I've dreamed about space. I've admired pilots, astronauts, and I've admired explorers of all kinds. And it was only a dream of mine that I would someday be one of them and have these kinds of opportunities. And throughout my life, I've studied the universe that we live in, and I've just been fascinated by astronomy and in all kinds of science. And again, it was only a dream of mine that someday I'd have the opportunity to be part of such an important astronomy mission as this one, the Advanced X-ray Astrophysics Facility. And throughout my life, and in particular in my career in the U.S. military and with NASA, I've been given important jobs and responsibilities, and I now accept this responsibility with all the determination and the motivation and the diligence that I've had and all the other challenges I've faced. I also think it's important that I point out that I didn't get here alone. There's so many women throughout this century that have gone before me and have taken to the skies. From the first barnstormers through the women Air Force, the women military Air Force service pilots from World War II, the Mercury women from back in the early 1960s that went through all the tough medical testing to become the first astronauts, to the first women who entered Air Force and Navy military pilot training in the mid-1970s, and most important, the first women astronauts, and I'd like to point out Sally Ride, who's with us here today. All these women have been my role models and my inspiration, and I couldn't be here today without them, and I'd like to say a special thank you to them. And additionally, while I've got the podium, I'd like to in particular thank my family and my friends, especially my parents who have been my best teachers and have been my mentors throughout my life. I'd like to recognize my husband who's here with me today. Without him, without the unfailing support that he's provided to me, I couldn't be here today. And now it's time. And now it's time for us to focus on this mission. On STS-93, our crew will deploy the Advanced X-ray Astrophysics Facility, or AXAF. As an amateur astronomer, I'm personally excited about the information this telescope will bring back to us. We'll learn more about the characteristics of individual stars, binary stars, galaxies, clusters of galaxies, and quasars. Since high-energy X-rays can penetrate through gas and dust and detect objects that are 100 times fainter than the current X-ray satellite that we have in orbit right now. AXAF will teach us about the beginning, the evolution, the current structure, and possibly even the fate of the universe that we live in. And our crew is very excited about this mission. But there's still much work left to be done between now and our December flight. There's training, testing, traveling, there'll be flying, and more simulators and constant practice. Today we're just getting started. Our crew will focus on this mission 100%, and we will make it one of NASA's greatest successes. In conclusion, it's my hope that all children, boys and girls, will see this mission and be inspired to reach for their dreams too, because dreams do come true. Thank you. And now it is my honor to introduce to you the President of the United States. Mr. President. Yes, yes.
Let's say that. I'm getting my facts straight. First of all, let me say that Hillary and I are delighted to have all of you here. The story Hillary told about her fascination with space is not apocryphal. It is real. I heard it a long time before I ever thought she'd be telling it before a microphone. And so this is a thrilling day for us. I want to thank Dan Golden and all the people at NASA for doing an absolutely superb job. Thank you, Colonel Collins, for your remarks and your example. To the members of Congress who are here, Congressman Houghton and Representatives Jackson Lee, Eddie Bernice Johnson, and Sol Lofgren, thank you for your support. I want to thank my science advisor, Jack Gibbons, as well as Sally Ride and Gene Phelan, a pioneer aviator who are here. Let me also say that Colonel Collins' husband is also a pilot. And when she introduced him to me, she said, he's not only a pilot, he's a scratch golfer. He's better than you are. And after a brief conversation, we actually concluded it was more likely that I would go into space than that I would ever be as good as he is. 40 years ago, Life magazine introduced America's first astronauts to the world, noting that the 7 Mercury astronauts were picked from, quote, the same general mold. They were all military pilots. They were all in their 30s. They all had crew cuts. They were all men, and they really were all true American heroes. But heroes come in every size and shape and gender. Today we celebrate the falling away of another barrier in America's quest to conquer the frontiers of space and also to advance the cause of equality. I'm proud to be here to congratulate Colonel Eileen Collins on becoming the first woman to command a space shuttle mission. She may not fit the exact mold of 40 years ago, but she clearly embodies the essential qualities of all our astronauts, then and now. the bold, restless, pioneering spirit that have made our nation great. And as we've already heard, the story of her life is a story of challenges set and challenges met. That is also the story of our space program. When it comes to exploring space and the unknown, the word impossible is not in our vocabulary. We have always recognized the limitless possibilities of seemingly impossible challenges. A generation ago, President Kennedy said within a decade we would send an American to the moon and bring him safely back to Earth. By 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin had left their footprints on the moon. We said in our time that we would visit the planets of the solar system. And last 4th of July, all Americans, with the help of a robot called Sojourner, got a chance to rove the surface of Mars and meet red rocks named Scooby-Doo and Barnacle Bill. 36 years after John Glenn made his history-making space flight in a capsule the size of a compact car, he's not only going back into space, but we are poised to build an international space station the size of a football field. America has indeed become, as President Kennedy hoped, the world's leading spacefaring nation, a distinction we must keep in the 21st century. Colonel Collins will lead us in this effort, commanding a mission to launch a telescope that will allow us to peer into the deepest reaches of outer space. Our balanced budget for 1999 will support, in fact, 28 new space missions, missions that will help us decipher more of the mysteries of black holes, of ancient stars, and of our Earth itself. Indeed, later today, NASA will be making some exciting new announcements on the results of the Lunar Prospector mission currently orbiting the moon. The knowledge we gain from our space missions could help us treat diseases here on Earth, from osteoporosis to ovarian cancer. It could make our farms more productive. It could help us to meet the challenge of global climate change, and perhaps help us to uncover the very origins of life itself. All Americans, especially our young people, have important roles to play in making these plans a reality. They have to begin by taking their studies, especially their studies in math and science, seriously. Last week we learned that our leading spacefaring nation is not faring very well when it comes to achievement of high school seniors in math and science. This is unacceptable. As we prepare for an information age that will require every student to master not just the basics of reading and math, but algebra, geometry, physics, and computer science, I call on every parent, every school, every teacher to set higher expectations for our children. And I call upon all our students, and I know that Hillary and Eileen will today, to take these challenging courses so that we can all be prepared for the known and still unknown challenges of the future. And I call on all young girls across America and their parents to take inspiration from Colonel Collins' achievement. Let me remind you of something she was too modest to say. She has a distinguished degree from Syracuse University. She came up through the ROTC program. She began her high school education in community college. I want every child in this country to know that we have opened the doors of college to all Americans. The community college is virtually free for all children now, that everybody can make this start, and nobody needs to put blinders on their aspirations for the future. She will prove that. But I want to say especially to the little girls who will hear Eileen Collins and those who will see her, and to their parents, let's remember that at a time when very few girls were taking the hardest math and science courses, Colonel Collins was taking them and mastering them. She did in part because of the unfailing support of her parents, who set high expectations and told her she could do anything she set her mind to. She never gave up, and one by one her dreams came true. I think our country owes a great debt of gratitude to her parents, and I hope more will follow her direction. And perhaps with her well-justified new fame notoriety, the greatest mark Colonel Collins will make will not be just written in the stars, but here on earth, in the mind of every young girl with a knack for numbers, a gift for science, and a fearless spirit. Let us work to make sure that for every girl and every boy, dreams and ambitions can be realized, and even the sky is no longer the limit. Thank you very much.
Following the announcement, several of those present at the event spoke with reporters. We'll first hear from representatives of the American Association of University Women and the National Women's Law Center. Then NASA Administrator Daniel Golden, astronaut Sally Ride, and the new shuttle commander Eileen Collins. Their comments are about 10 minutes.